Ethan Cross arrived in Sunridge Heights at 10:17 a.m., when the sun made every driveway look freshly poured and every blade of grass seem combed into place. His navigation screen chirped a cheerful jingle. He killed the engine, listened for the usual suburban soundtrack, mowers, dogs, kids, and frowned at the quiet. A white sign arched over the entrance, "Welcome home." Beneath it, smaller lettering, "Community standards ensure community safety." His house sat on the right, beige siding, black shutters, porch wreath perfectly centered. The realtor had called it move-in ready. Here it looked like fall in line. He carried a box to the porch and found an envelope tucked under the doormat with surgical precision. No stamp. No handwriting. Just his name in a clean font. Inside was a single card. Sunridge Heights Homeowners Association. Welcome package access code. 4x7-19B. Trash receptacles. Not visible from street. Window treatments. Approved list required. Quiet hours. 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. We're glad you're here. Ethan's mouth twitched. You too, he muttered, then slid it back into the envelope. A shadow crossed the porch. A woman approached at a brisk, practiced pace, clipboard in one hand, smile in place. Cream blazer, unwrinkled slacks, the kind of outfit that suggested she slept in an agenda. "Mr. Cross?" she asked. "Yes." Marjorie Whitlock, Compliance Director, Sunridge Heights HOA. "Welcome." Her handshake was cool and firm. A small pin on her lapel resembled a shield stamped SH. "I didn't know HOAs had directors," Ethan said. "We're a proactive community," Marjorie replied. "We prevent issues before they become patterns." "Patterns?" Ethan echoed. She tapped her clipboard. "Your property is enrolled in the Community Harmony program. It handles reminders, maintenance scheduling, and safety monitoring. Have you connected your home hub?" "I just got here." "Then I'll ask tomorrow. Please avoid exterior changes until orientation is complete. That includes unapproved lighting, flags, and window tint." Ethan blinked. Window tint. "Privacy films disrupt visual cohesion," she said, as if explaining weather. "We host a welcome meeting tonight at 7. Attendance is strongly encouraged." "I've got unpacking." "You'll unpack faster once you understand expectations." She made a small check mark. "See you tonight." She turned and walked away without looking back, heels clicking like a metronome. By late afternoon, boxes formed uneven towers in his living room. He plugged in his kettle and tried to feel relieved about starting over. The first months after leaving government work had been restless. Short contracts, too many cities. This place had looked like a clean slate. A soft buzz drifted through the kitchen. Ethan froze. Again, a mosquito-like hum, moving in a slow arc. He parted the curtain. Outside, hovering near the hedge line, was a drone the size of a dinner plate. Matte grey shell. 4 ducted fans. A gimbal-mounted sensor pod that didn't blink but still felt like an eye. It held position with impossible steadiness. Consumer drones wandered and corrected. This one hung in the air like it had a grid to cling to. Ethan stepped onto the porch. The drone shifted, keeping distance, angling its sensor toward him. "Hey," he called. "You lost." Silence. Then a thin sweep of blue light traced the doorframe, the window, and, briefly, his face. His skin prickled. That wasn't a camera flash. That was scanning. He raised his phone to record. The screen flickered, went black, then rebooted with a polite message. "Connection unavailable." "Cute," he muttered. Across the street, a curtain moved. An older woman's face appeared between folds, eyes wide, then vanished. The drone climbed a few feet and slid away, unhurried. Ethan went back inside. His smart speaker lit up without being asked. "Welcome, Resident Cross," it said in a friendly voice he didn't recognize. "Your home hub is not synchronized. Please complete onboarding to improve your experience." He unplugged the speaker. At 6:45, irritation had replaced caution, and curiosity had replaced both. He walked to the community center. The building sat at the neighborhood's heart like a courthouse wearing suburban camouflage, stone facade, glass, a fountain that didn't dare splash. A banner read, "Sunridge Welcome Night." Inside, folding chairs faced a stage. A projector displayed smiling families and phrases like "Harmony is a choice." Marjorie stood up front, speaking to a man in a dark polo with an Aegis logo stitched on the chest. He held a tablet covered in certification stickers. When Ethan entered, Marjorie's eyes found him instantly. "There he is," she said. "Mr. Cross, I'm glad you made it." Ethan nodded toward the street-facing windows. "Does the drone come with the welcome package?" A few residents shifted, suddenly fascinated by the floor. Marjorie's smile held. "Safety monitoring is automatic. We had a recent incident involving package theft." "I don't mind cameras," Ethan said. "I mind scans." The Aegis man looked up, calm and practiced. "Our units collect only what's necessary for community security." "Necessary," Ethan replied. "According to who?" Marjorie stepped closer, lowering her voice. "According to the standards you agreed to when you bought property here." "I signed a stack of documents," Ethan said. "None of them mentioned a drone sweeping my windows." Her tone cooled. "Then consider this your orientation. Sunridge Heights runs smoothly because everyone participates." From the back row, someone cleared her throat. Ethan recognized the woman from the curtain. She stood with hands clasped tight. "Marjorie," she said softly, "it's getting worse." Marjorie's head turned like a switch. "Mrs. Delgado, we're welcoming our new resident." Mrs. Delgado looked at Ethan, apology and fear tangled together. "Just, be careful," she whispered. Marjorie clapped once, sharp. "All right, everyone. We'll review expectations, and then Aegis will demonstrate our updated compliance tools." Ethan sat, jaw tight, as the lights dimmed. The slideshow changed to a neighborhood map studded with glowing dots, every home lit like a target. Marjorie's voice floated through the dark, warm as honey. "In Sunridge Heights," she said, "we don't just live together. We look out for each other." Outside, the faint buzz returned, circling the building like a patient thought. Ethan slept poorly after the meeting. Not because of noise, Sunridge Heights was silent as a museum, but because silence had become its own kind of pressure. Even with the curtains drawn, he kept imagining the faint mechanical hum outside, waiting like a patient insect. At 6:12 a.m., his phone vibrated. HOA notice. Trash bin placement non-compliant. Timestamp. 6:07 a.m. Photo attached. Ethan sat up, squinting at the screen. The attached image showed his driveway from above, angled sharply downward. His trash bin stood beside the garage, exactly where he'd placed it the night before. He zoomed in. A red outline surrounded the bin like a crime scene marker. Violation, visible from street. He swung his legs out of bed and walked outside barefoot. The bin hadn't moved. From the curb, it was barely noticeable behind the edge of the house. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. His neighbor's door creaked. Mrs. Delgado stepped onto her porch holding a mug with both hands, as if warmth was something she couldn't waste. "They start early," she said. Ethan looked across the street. "You got one too." Mrs. Delgado's eyes flicked upward, not at him but at the sky. "I get them every week. Once they wrote me up because my grandson's bicycle was visible for 12 minutes. 12 minutes. They said the drone logged it." Her voice dropped. "It's easier to just, not argue." Ethan's irritation sharpened. "Argue. It's a trash bin." "It's never just the bin," she whispered. Before he could respond, a soft whir rolled overhead. Ethan looked up. A drone glided between rooftops, smooth as a swallow. It didn't wobble or correct itself. It moved like it knew exactly where it was going. Mrs. Delgado retreated inside without another word. Ethan went back in, made coffee, and opened his laptop. The old habits came easily. He pulled up a spectrum analyzer app, connected a small receiver he kept from contract work, and began scanning local frequencies. Most neighborhoods were cluttered with Wi-Fi chatter, garage door openers, kids' toys. Sunridge Heights was different. Beneath the normal noise ran a narrow, encrypted band pulsing steadily, like a heartbeat. He traced the signal strength. It peaked toward the community center. "Of course," he murmured. At noon, another notice arrived. HOA notice. Unregistered electronic activity detected. Please cease unauthorized signal monitoring. Ethan stared at the screen. His coffee went cold. He hadn't told anyone what he was doing. He hadn't even left his kitchen. A knock sounded at the door. He opened it to find Marjorie Whitlock standing perfectly composed, as though she'd been waiting for the exact second to appear. Behind her, the Aegis technician from the meeting leaned against a black SUV, arms folded. "Mr. Cross," Marjorie said brightly. "May we come in?" Ethan didn't move. "Is this about my trash bin?" Her smile didn't falter. "It's about cooperation." The technician's eyes swept past Ethan's shoulder, taking inventory of the house without stepping inside. Marjorie tilted her head. "We noticed irregular RF activity originating from your address." Ethan's expression hardened. "You noticed?" "Our system did," she corrected. Sunridge Heights is equipped with proactive monitoring. It protects residents from interference, hacking, and from curiosity, Ethan said. The technician finally spoke. His voice was calm, rehearsed. "Signal analysis can disrupt drone navigation. That creates liability." "I was sitting at my table," Ethan replied. "If that's a liability, you've built a fragile neighborhood." Marjorie's eyes sharpened. "We've built a safe one." Ethan let out a short laugh. "Safe for who?" Marjorie stepped closer, lowering her voice as if sharing something intimate. "People move here because they want order, predictability, harmony. We provide that. And if someone doesn't fit?" Her polite mask thinned. "Then we guide them toward compliance." The word landed heavy. Marjorie straightened. "I'm issuing a friendly reminder. Attend the onboarding session tomorrow. Connect your home hub. Stop probing our infrastructure." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Or what?" The technician's gaze didn't blink. Marjorie answered softly, "Or you become a problem the system must address." They left without waiting for a response. That evening, Ethan drove to the edge of the neighborhood. The manicured lawns ended abruptly at a chain-link fence and a strip of desert beyond. A sign read, "Restricted HOA Operations Area." Behind the fence, a low building sat half buried in landscaping, designed to look like a utility station. No windows. Only a keypad and a camera that followed him as he approached. He turned back, pulse steady but alert. At home, he worked with the curtains closed. He dismantled an old consumer drone he'd brought with him, exposing its receiver board. With careful soldering, he added a bypass circuit, creating a listening device that could piggyback on local drone traffic without broadcasting anything. A quiet tap into the stream. He powered it on. For a moment, nothing. Then the laptop filled with packets, compressed bursts of data, heavily encrypted, but structured. He couldn't read the content yet. He could read the labels. Unit ID, HOA DRN 12. Target, Resident 4417. Scan type, biometric. Status, complete. Ethan's stomach tightened. Biometric. He scrolled. Target, Resident 4421. Scan type, thermal interior. Status, complete. Thermal interior. His fingers hovered above the keyboard. That's not package theft. A new line appeared. Target, Resident 4419. Behavioral anomaly score, elevated. Recommendation, review. He sat back slowly, mind working. Compliance wasn't about trash bins. It was about profiles. He thought of the map on the projector, every house a glowing dot. Not homes. Nodes. A chime sounded from his smart doorbell screen. Someone stood outside. He checked the feed. Mrs. Delgado. He opened the door cautiously. She didn't step in. Her hands twisted together. "I shouldn't be here," she whispered. Ethan kept his voice gentle. Then why are you? Her eyes darted toward the street. Because you're doing what my husband tried to do. Ethan's chest tightened. Your husband? She swallowed. He asked questions. He complained about the drones. He said they were watching through the windows. Ethan's voice dropped. What happened to him? Mrs. Delgado's face trembled, but she held herself together. One morning, the house was empty. His phone was gone. The HOA told me he'd moved for health reasons. Her laugh was thin and broken. Moved without telling me. Ethan felt a cold line form down his spine. She leaned closer. They don't just fine you, Mr. Cross. They erase you. A distant buzz rose outside, faint but unmistakable. Mrs. Delgado stepped back quickly. Please, stop before they decide you're next. Ethan watched her hurry away, shoulders hunched. He turned his gaze upward. Above the rooftops, a drone hovered, still as a judgment. Inside his laptop, another packet arrived. Target. Resident 4417. Behavioral anomaly score, rising. Recommendation. Escalate. Ethan closed the screen slowly. The neighborhood wasn't watching him. It was measuring him. And somewhere beneath Sunridge Heights, something was deciding what to do about it. Ethan didn't sleep at all. By dawn, the house felt less like shelter and more like a glass box. Every creak of settling wood sounded amplified. Every flicker of light outside made his muscles tense. He sat at the kitchen table with his laptop open. Packet logs scrolling in quiet accusation. Numbers, labels, recommendations. Escalate. He kept hearing Mrs. Delgado's voice. They erase you. At 7:03 a.m., his phone buzzed again. Fay notice. Curtain opacity out of spec. Action required within 24 hours. Ethan stared at it, then let out a breath that was almost a laugh. They're running out of creativity, he muttered. A hum passed overhead, closer than before. He stepped outside and shaded his eyes. 2 drones hovered above his driveway, angled downward like they were studying him. Their sensor pods rotated in small, synchronized movements. Ethan's patience snapped into clarity. Fine. If they wanted him compliant, they were about to learn what resistance looked like, quiet, careful, and smart. He spent the morning in his garage, surrounded by unpacked boxes and old equipment. He dug out a rugged case marked with faded government inventory numbers. Inside were tools he hadn't used since leaving contract work, frequency modules, shielding tape, a compact power cell. He wasn't building a weapon. He was building a shut-off switch. He assembled the device slowly, deliberately. A handheld emitter tuned to the drone's control band, designed to overload their receivers long enough to force an emergency landing. Temporary disruption. No explosions. No fire. Just gravity. He tested it on a cheap toy quadcopter first. The little machine lifted, wobbled, then dropped harmlessly onto a foam pad the moment he activated the pulse. Ethan exhaled. Works. Outside, the neighborhood remained unnaturally still. Curtains stayed closed. Driveways sat empty. Sunridge Heights felt like a staged set waiting for actors who never arrived. At noon, Ethan heard it again. One drone descending lower, bold enough now to approach his backyard fence. He stepped onto the grass with the device hidden behind his leg. The drone paused mid-air, sensor angled toward his patio door. A thin blue scan swept across the glass. Ethan raised the emitter. Not today, he said softly. He pressed the trigger. The drone jerked as if struck by invisible force. Its stabilizers stuttered. The hum warped into an uneven whine. For half a second, it fought to hold position. Then it dropped. It fell straight into the lawn with a dull thud, blade spinning down into silence. Ethan stood still, heart pounding, not from fear, but from the shock of how easy it was. A machine that had seemed untouchable lay like scrap. Across the street, a curtain twitched. Another neighbor's door cracked open. People were watching. Ethan crouched, examining the drone. Its casing was seamless, no brand markings. Military clean. A small emblem near the battery port, Aegis. He straightened. The victory lasted less than 3 minutes. A black SUV rolled into his driveway as if summoned by the crash. Marjorie Whitlock stepped out first, crisp as ever. Behind her came two men in Aegis polos, their expressions flat and professional. Marjorie's gaze locked onto the fallen drone. Then to Ethan. Her voice was calm, but something sharp lived beneath it. "Mr. Cross." Ethan didn't move. "Marjorie." She approached slowly, heels clicking against concrete. "You interfered with HOA property." "It was scanning my home." "It was performing a safety sweep." "It was invading," Ethan corrected. One of the technicians crouched beside the drone, checking its ports. His jaw tightened when he saw the damage. Marjorie's smile returned, thin as paper. "Do you understand the seriousness of what you've done?" Ethan held up the emitter slightly. "Not threatening, just visible. I understand perfectly. You've been monitoring residents without consent." Her eyes flickered. "Consent was granted in your contract." "My contract didn't mention biometric profiling." A pause. Marjorie's voice softened. "You're intelligent, Ethan. That's obvious. But intelligence without cooperation becomes disruption." "Disruption is sometimes necessary," he said. Her expression hardened fully now, the pleasant mask gone. "You are not special," she said quietly. "The system does not bend for one homeowner." Ethan's pulse stayed steady. Then maybe the system is the problem. Marjorie leaned closer, her tone almost intimate. "You have no idea what you've stepped into." Before he could respond, one of the technicians spoke into his wrist. "MIC. Unit down confirmed. Recommend escalation protocol." Marjorie straightened. "No, not yet." She looked at Ethan like a teacher deciding whether to expel a student. "This is your final warning. Attend onboarding. Connect your hub. Stop interfering." Ethan's voice was low. "Or you erase me." Her eyes did not deny it. She turned sharply. "Remove the drone." The SUV backed out. Marjorie didn't glance back. The moment they left, the neighborhood retreated into silence again. Curtains closed. Doors shut. The brief spark of curiosity extinguished by fear. Ethan carried the disabled drone into his garage and locked the door. That evening, he drove to Mrs. Delgado's house. He knocked softly. It took a long time before the door opened a few inches. Her face appeared, wary. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "I brought proof," Ethan said. Her eyes widened. "What did you do?" "I made one fall." She inhaled sharply, as if the words themselves were dangerous. You can't do that. They'll." "I know." Ethan's voice was steady. "That's why I need to know everything. About your husband. About what happens when someone resists." Mrs. Delgado hesitated, then opened the door enough to let him in. Her living room was neat but heavy with quiet grief. Family photos lined the mantel. One frame had been turned face down. "They told me he relocated," she said, voice trembling. 2 days later, the house was listed online. Like he'd never existed. Ethan swallowed. "Did you ever get a goodbye?" Her laugh was bitter. "Goodbyes are for people, not for problems." Ethan leaned forward. "Marjorie works for Aegis. The drones are collecting more than video. They're building profiles." Mrs. Delgado's hands twisted together. "We all know. We just pretend we don't." Outside, the faint hum returned. Ethan's head turned toward the window. Not one drone. Many. The sound layered, overlapping, growing into something like distant rain. Mrs. Delgado's face drained of color. "Oh no," she whispered. "They've never sent this many." Ethan stepped toward the curtain, careful not to expose himself fully. Above the streetlights, shapes hovered in formation, their sensor pods glowing faintly. A swarm. His phone buzzed with a new notification. HOA status update. Resident 4417. Classification. Compliance threat level 2. Action. Active monitoring initiated. Ethan stared at the words, then at the sky filled with machines. Mrs. Delgado's voice cracked. They've decided. Ethan's grip tightened around the emitter in his pocket. Then I don't have much time, he said. And for the first time since moving in, Sunridge Heights felt truly awake. The swarm stayed overhead all night. Ethan watched from Mrs. Delgado's darkened living room, the street outside washed in pale porchlight and drifting mechanical silhouettes. The drones didn't search randomly. They held positions with purpose, like sentries waiting for a command. Mrs. Delgado sat rigid on the couch, fingers pressed to her lips. They never used to do this, she whispered. It was always quiet warnings. Letters. Fines. Ethan's jaw was set. Warnings are for people they think will obey. At sunrise, the neighborhood looked unchanged, perfect lawns, spotless sidewalks, but the air felt different, charged. Residents stepped outside cautiously, eyes lifting, then dropping. No one spoke. Ethan returned home through back streets, hood up, moving like someone already guilty. The drones tracked him at a distance, not attacking, simply documenting each step. Inside his garage, he laid out everything he had: the emitter, spare power cells, his modified receiver board. He wasn't going to outgun a system. He needed leverage. He opened his laptop and dug deeper into the captured packets. Encryption layered thick, but the metadata told stories. Scan type. Thermal interior. Behavioral prediction. Non-compliant. Recommendation. Remove. Remove. Not fine. Not warn. Erase. He followed the signal trail again, stronger now. The source wasn't just the community center. It was beneath it. At noon, his doorbell chimed. Ethan froze. On the screen stood Marjorie Whitlock, immaculate as ever, flanked by two uniformed private security officers with Aegis insignias. Behind them, a slim man in a suit watched with detached interest. Marjorie smiled pleasantly. "Mr. Cross. We need to speak." Ethan opened the door halfway. "About what?" "Curtains. Trash bins." "About your future here," she replied. The suited man stepped forward. "Ethan Cross. Former communications contractor. Your technical background is impressive." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "And you are?" "Calvin Reese. Aegis Community Systems." He spoke as though introducing himself at a fundraiser. "Sunridge Heights is a pilot program. We prefer cooperation over conflict." Marjorie's voice remained smooth. "You've made yourself difficult." Ethan leaned against the frame. "You've made yourselves criminals." A flicker crossed Marjorie's face. Calvin sighed lightly. "You misunderstand. Residents consent when they buy into the covenant. Safety requires oversight. Scanning bedrooms isn't safety." Marjorie's smile vanished. "It's order." Ethan met her stare. "Order without freedom is a cage." Marjorie stepped closer. "You have one last chance. Attend onboarding. Surrender unauthorized devices. Rejoin harmony." "And if I don't?" Calvin's tone stayed mild. "Then Sunridge Heights will no longer be an appropriate environment for you." Mrs. Delgado's words echoed. "They erase you." Ethan exhaled. "Get off my property." Marjorie's eyes sharpened. "This community is our property." They left without another word. That night, Ethan made his decision. He couldn't hide. He couldn't comply. He couldn't wait to vanish quietly. He needed to expose the truth before the system rewrote him. At 2:18 a.m., he moved. Dressed in dark clothes, he crossed lawns and driveways with practiced silence. The drones above shifted, tracking, but none descended. Not yet. Like they wanted him to run. The community center loomed ahead, its fountain still running, absurdly cheerful. Ethan slipped around the side, past a keypad panel. He'd watched technicians enter enough times to memorize patterns. With a small signal spoofer, he mimicked an authorized badge handshake. The lock clicked. Inside, the building smelled of disinfectant and artificial calm. Hallways stretched empty. He moved quickly, following the strongest signal downward. A door marked maintenance only led to stairs. Beneath the community center, Sunridge Heights revealed its real heart. A control chamber opened wide, walls lined with screens. Live feeds from every street. Every porch. Every window angle. A map glowed in the center, each home a pulsing node. Thousands of resident profiles scrolled in columns. Compliance scores. Behavioral forecasts. Recommendations. Ethan's stomach tightened. This wasn't an HOA. It was an experiment. A voice behind him cut through the hum. I wondered when you'd come down here. Marjorie stood at the entrance, alone, hands clasped calmly. The lights made her look almost unreal, like a figure generated by the system itself. You're trespassing, Ethan said. She smiled faintly. You're late. Ethan gestured at the screens. This is what you call harmony. This is what I call prevention, she replied. Chaos begins with small disobedience. A trash bin. A question. A man who won't stay in his lane. Ethan's voice was sharp. You disappeared, people. Marjorie's expression didn't change. People disappear all the time. We simply accelerate the inevitable for those who disrupt stability. He stepped closer. Your stability is surveillance. My stability is peace, she corrected. Sunridge Heights is perfect because we make it perfect. Ethan glanced toward the core terminal. And Aegis sells that perfection. Marjorie's eyes gleamed. Nationwide. She lifted a tablet and tapped once. Above them, the monitors shifted. Drone bay doors opened across the neighborhood. A swarm launched into the night sky like a dark bloom. Marjorie's voice softened. The Karen protocol is active now. It predicts threats before they spread. Ethan's pulse hammered, but his mind stayed clear. He pulled a small drive from his pocket. I already copied everything, he said. For the first time, Marjorie hesitated. Ethan plugged the drive into the central terminal and hit upload. Data spilled outward, resident scans, removal logs, Aegis contracts, streaming onto public networks, news feeds, whistleblower channels. Marjorie's composure cracked. No, she whispered. You don't understand what you've done. I understand exactly, Ethan replied. I gave them eyes. Outside, sirens began to rise in the distance. Residents stepped onto porches, phones glowing as alerts flooded in. Sunridge Heights was waking up. Marjorie's voice turned frantic. They need guidance. Without control, they become animals. Ethan stared at her. Without control, they become people. She lunged toward the console, fingers flying, trying to override the upload. Ethan raised the emitter. One pulse, he warned. Marjorie froze, breathing hard. Police lights flashed beyond the windows. The swarm above faltered, uncertain, as command links overloaded with public interference. Ethan pressed the trigger. A deep electromagnetic wave rippled through the chamber. On the screens, drones blinked out one by one. Outside, the hum collapsed into silence as machines dropped harmlessly onto lawns, streets, fountains, metal insects finally dead. Marjorie stood trembling, surrounded by the ruin of her order. Officers burst in moments later.